Story 1 of 8. Australia's 2026 federal budget introduces major tax reforms on negative gearing and capital gains tax. Australia's 2026 federal budget introduces major tax reforms on negative gearing and capital gains tax. Here's what every outlet agrees on. The 2026 federal budget was handed down on May 12, 2026 by Treasurer Jim Chalmers at 7:30 p.m. AEST. Negative gearing will be restricted to new builds only from July 1, 2027, with existing investors grandfathered. The 50% capital gains tax, CGT discount, will be replaced with an inflation-based indexation system from July 1, 2027, with a minimum 30% tax rate on gains. The government estimates the tax changes will help 75,000 additional Australians buy their first home over the next decade. The budget includes a $250 annual tax offset for 13.3 million working Australians starting from the 2027-28 financial year. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian and The Age report that the budget will cut $35 billion from the NDIS over 4 years. But ABC and news.com.au mention a reduction of up to 300,000 people from the scheme, with a $36.2 billion saving. The Guardian and news.com.au mention a $10 billion fuel security package, while ABC and The Age report $14.8 billion for fuel security measures. The Guardian and news.com.au state that the budget will spend $1.8 billion over 5 years on Medicare urgent care clinics. But The Age mentions $1.8 billion over 5 years and $500 million annually ongoing from 2030-31. This story was covered by ABC News, The Guardian, news.com.au, Sydney Morning Herald, and The Age.
Story 2 of 8. Trump-Xi summit in Beijing amid Iran war, trade tensions, and Taiwan standoff. Trump-Xi summit in Beijing amid Iran war, trade tensions, and Taiwan standoff. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Donald Trump arrives in Beijing on May 13, 2026, for a 2-day summit with Xi Jinping, the first US president visit to China in nearly a decade, since 2017. The summit was originally delayed due to the US-Israel war in Iran, which began on February 28, 2026, and has disrupted global oil supplies through the Strait of Hormuz. Trump is accompanied by a delegation of US business leaders, including Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX, Tim Cook, Apple, Sanjay Mehrotra, Micron, Chuck Robbins, Cisco, and Cristiano Amon, Qualcomm. The US and China agreed to a temporary trade truce in October 2025, pausing tariffs that had reached as high as 145% on Chinese goods and Beijing's restrictions on rare earth exports. China is Iran's largest buyer of oil, accounting for about 80% of Iranian oil shipments before the US blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian reports Trump's $11 billion Taiwan arms sale package has been stalled by the State Department, while ABC states it has been put on ice ahead of the summit. The Guardian claims Trump has relaxed restrictions on the sale of advanced semiconductors to China, but ABC does not mention this specific policy shift. Guardian sources suggest Trump may weaken US support for Taiwan in exchange for Xi's help on Iran, while ABC frames it as a potential discussion point without confirming concessions. This story was covered by ABC News, The Guardian, and SBS News.
Story 3 of 8. Neanderthals performed dental drilling 59,000 years ago, revealing advanced medical skills. Neanderthals performed dental drilling 59,000 years ago, revealing advanced medical skills. Here's what every outlet agrees on. A Neanderthal molar from Chagaskaya Cave, southern Siberia, dated to 59,000 years old, shows evidence of a drilled cavity for treating tooth decay. The tooth was found in Chagaskaya Cave, where thousands of stone tools and Neanderthal remains have been excavated since 2007. Microscopic X-ray imaging revealed the hole was created using a sharp, thin stone tool made from local jasper, with patterns matching experimental drilling on modern teeth. The tooth's owner survived the procedure and continued to use the tooth for some time afterward, as evidenced by smoothed edges and wear patterns. The discovery is the oldest known evidence of dental treatment by more than 40,000 years, predating the previous earliest example, a 14,000-year-old Homo sapiens tooth from Italy. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian states the tooth was found in southern Siberia, while the ABC article describes it as southwestern Siberia, though both refer to Chagutskaya Cave. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian.
Story 4 of 8. US Senate confirms Kevin Warsh as Federal Reserve Chair amid political and economic turmoil. US Senate confirms Kevin Warsh as Federal Reserve Chair amid political and economic turmoil. Here's what every outlet agrees on. The US Senate confirmed Kevin Warsh as Federal Reserve Chair on May 13, 2026, in a 54-45 vote split along party lines, with one Democratic exception. Warsh was confirmed for a 4-year term as Fed Chair and a 14-year term as a Fed Governor. Jerome Powell's term as Fed Chair ends on May 14, 2026, and he will remain on the Fed's board as a voting governor until the White House investigation into Fed renovations is resolved. Donald Trump has repeatedly pressured the Fed to lower interest rates, which currently stand at 3.55 to 3.75%. Inflation is currently at 3.8% in April 2026. C6, rising due to a 50% spike in fuel prices caused by the Iran war. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian states Warsh's confirmation vote was 54-45, with one Democratic exception, while ABC does not specify the exact vote count but confirms it was largely party line. ABC reports Warsh's confirmation was delayed due to Senator Tom Tillis blocking it, while The Guardian does not mention Tillis by name but notes the investigation into Powell's renovations was a factor. The Guardian describes Warsh as a so-called inflation hawk during the 2008 crisis, while ABC emphasizes his past criticism of the Fed's inflation handling in 2021-22 as part of his regime change agenda. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian.
Story 5 of 8. UK MP Nigel Farage faces inquiry over undeclared $5 million crypto gift. UK MP Nigel Farage faces inquiry over undeclared $5 million crypto gift. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Nigel Farage is facing a formal investigation by the Parliamentary Standards Watchdog over a $5 million gift from crypto billionaire Christopher Harborn. The gift was received weeks before Farage announced he would stand as a candidate in the 2024 general election. Farage claims the $5 million was intended to cover his personal security costs and did not need to be declared. Under parliamentary rules, MPs must declare any registrable benefits, other than earnings, received in the 12 months before their election within 1 month of taking office. The investigation is being conducted under Rule 5 of the Parliamentary Code of Conduct, which requires MPs to fulfil conscientiously their registration of interests. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian states Farage's speech was postponed due to the investigation, with Reform UK citing government chaos and Labour leadership race, while the ABC does not mention the postponement reason beyond the investigation. The Guardian specifies Harborn is based in Thailand, while the ABC does not mention his location beyond describing him as a crypto investor. The Guardian notes the Electoral Commission's original deadline was 12 May, extended due to elections, while the ABC does not mention the original deadline or extension. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian.
Story 6 of 8. Drug counsellor Erik Fleming sentenced for supplying ketamine linked to Matthew Perry's death. Drug counsellor Erik Fleming sentenced for supplying ketamine linked to Matthew Perry's death. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Erik Fleming, a 56-year-old licensed drug addiction counsellor, was sentenced to 2 years in prison for supplying ketamine that killed Matthew Perry. Fleming pleaded guilty in August 2024 to 1 count of distribution of ketamine resulting in death. Matthew Perry was found dead in a jacuzzi at his Los Angeles home on October 28, 2023, from acute effects of ketamine, with drowning as a secondary cause. Fleming connected Perry to Jasmine Sanger, the convicted drug dealer nicknamed the Ketamine Queen, who was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Fleming delivered 25 vials of ketamine to Perry's home for $6,000 4 days before Perry's death. But not all outlets told the same story. The ABC article states, Fleming was the first of 5 defendants to plead guilty, while The Guardian says he was the first defendant to plead guilty before other arrests were even announced, implying a slight difference in timing emphasis. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian.
Story 7 of 8. England appoints Marcus North as first foreign men's cricket selector and names new squad for NZ series. England appoints Marcus North as first foreign men's cricket selector and names new squad for NZ series. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Marcus North, a former Australia Test cricketer, is appointed as the first foreign national selector for the England men's cricket team. North will replace Luke Wright, who stepped down earlier this year after the Ashes defeat in Australia. North, 46, previously worked as Director of Cricket at Durham since 2018 and has lived in the northeast of England since the early 2000s. North played 21 tests for Australia and also batted for 6 English counties during his career. England will face New Zealand in a 3-test series starting at Lords on June 4, 2026. But not all outlets told the same story. The ABC states Sarah Taylor was named the first female fielding coach for the English men's team. But The Guardian does not mention her appointment in its article. The ABC reports that North was selected ahead of Stephen Finn, Darren Gough, and Nick Knight, while The Guardian only mentions Finn and Gough as competitors. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian.
Story 8 of 8. Giro d'Italia Stage 5 Wild Finish. Arrieta wins despite crashes and wrong turn. Eulálio takes lead. Giro d'Italia Stage 5 Wild Finish. Arrieta wins despite crashes and wrong turn. Eulálio takes lead. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Igor Arrieta, UAE Team Emirates, XRG, won Stage 5 of the Giro d'Italia despite crashing 13.5 km, ABC 12 km, 14 km from the finish, and taking a wrong turn 2 km before the line. Afonso Eulálio, Bahrain victorious, took the overall race lead, Maglia Rosa, after finishing second in Stage 5 with a 2-min 51cc lead over Arrieta. Stage 5 was 203 km long, starting in Praia Amare and finishing in Potenza, featuring the Montagna Grande di Viggiano climb, 6.6 km at 9.2% gradient. Both Arrieta and Eulálio crashed during the stage. Arrieta on a descent, 13.5 km through 14 km from finish. Eulálio on wet roads, 7 km, 6 km from the finish. Stage 6, May 14, 2026, is a 142 km flat rubber from Paestum to Napoli, passing near Mount Vesuvius, with a potential chaotic cobbled finale, but not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian states Arrieta crashed 13.5 km from the finish, while ABC reports 14 km from the finish. The Guardian says Eulálio crashed 7 km from the finish, while ABC says 6 km from the finish. ABC mentions a 12-man breakaway was reduced to Arrieta and Eulálio, but The Guardian does not specify the initial breakaway size. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian.